Well, imagine picking up your favorite snack pack only to find that it feels and in fact is much lighter. Well, it won't really be an illusion because shrinkflation is back at work. Companies are battling rising costs of wheat, cocoa and edible oils by shrinking pack sizes or subtly raising prices. Well, big players like Britannia, Parle, ITC and Godrej are tweaking their strategies to cope. So expect prices of biscuits, cakes and packet staples to climb up as much as 7% in coming months. Well, in fact, Britannia CEO Ranjit Singh Kohli confirmed a 3 to 5% price hike ahead along with reduced pack sizes, an effort to balance rising costs without overwhelming consumers. With edible oil prices up 40% year-on-year and a new 20% import duty adding pressure, the industry faces tough choices. So your shopping basket might soon feel a little lighter on quantity but a little heavier on the wallet. So shrinkflation, Amrish Baliga, it's here, it's back again. What does this really do for the consumer and what does this do for the margins of the FMCG companies?
See, despite the shrinkflation, I think the margins would be under pressure because you can't shrink beyond a certain level. I mean,
Right.
if you're giving, say, 20 grams of wafers, you can make it 15. You can't really make it 10. Otherwise, you need to raise prices. And if you're raising prices from the minimum slab, like most of these snacks, the smallest packets have been available at 5 rupees. Now, 5, you don't make it 6, you need to make it 10. So that is also not possible at this point of time. So overall, I think it will like result in a slightly lower sort of demand because of the inflation overall, because that's the first thing people cut when there's inflation.
Right.
At the same time, like I said, like the margins would be under pressure because they'll not be able to reduce the grammage
Right.
to a very large extent.
Well, Amrish, just to point a little case study we were discussing just before this show in the newsroom, a young boy in the team happened to tell me that ever since he was born, the Parle packet has been 5 rupees and it hasn't really changed while the quantity has come down. So that's in line with what with what you're stating. But so is the case, in fact, across pretty much all FMCG products. You don't really see the prices go up and you see quantity reduce. So, I mean, is it okay to continue with this shrinkflation and how does it work globally? Is it time to now actually address inflation as inflation and raise prices?
I think so. I think somewhere the company need to bite the bullet and say that the costs have gone up, so we are increasing prices for the same grammage. Like I said, I mean, beyond a certain level, you cannot reduce, I mean, the size because, for example, you're talking about the Parle biscuits. I
Yeah.
mean, Parle biscuits, as of now, if I'm not wrong, you get 6 biscuits in that 5 rupee packet. You can't bring it from 6 to 2 biscuits. It's just not possible.
Right. So, I also want to understand the implication of this 20% import duty on edible oil, and edible oil prices have risen 40% year on year. Now, that is obviously something which is really huge for the consumer who actually depends on edible oil for the basic needs of cooking. What can the government do or what can companies do to actually curtail this? I mean, can we increase production domestically, reduce dependence on import oil, or are we going to be in this sort of, import era from countries like Malaysia, etc., for much longer?
See, the major import of edible oil is palm oil. And as of now, the Indian production is not enough to meet the demand. And as long as the prices go up, clearly the input costs for the Indian companies will surely go up and they'll have to increase prices for the retail. And whatever we're talking about, I mean, that 5.5%, 5.75% inflation, I mean, that's only a number. I mean, you ask a person on the street as to how much his monthly bills have gone up by. I mean, the figures would come nothing less than 15-20%. So the actual inflation, I mean, at the ground level is much higher than what is being stated. And this is what is putting pressure on the overall demand, especially the urban demand, which we see is coming down, is basically because of this.
So is there something that the government can do? Because we've seen that whatever the Reserve Bank has tried to do, Amrish, hasn't really cut it beyond a point, because headline inflation is what the Reserve Bank looks at, and supply side issues are something which is difficult for a central bank to control. So is there something that the central government can do to tame inflation, or we just take inflation as fait accompli and move on with higher bills month on month?
See, the biggest inflation, issue is with the food items. And the government has been talking of managing the supply chain, ensuring that the supply chain is smooth in the last 10 years. But nothing much seems to have been done about that, because if you're talking of the cold storages, you hardly see, fresh new capacity coming up in that space. And that is what is creating the issue as far as the food inflation is concerned. You require storages, whether it's whether it is cold storage or the regular storage, and you need to also smoothen the supply chain, which is where I think we are taking a hit. I think the government still needs to do a lot more as far as that is concerned, to ensure that the price fluctuation as well as the inflation is kept under control.